Of all the alleged villains in Game of Thrones, Roose Bolton may be the most cunning and methodical, but his actions throughout the entire series are completely justified.
Yeah, they are completely justified, and by the way, he is totally yoked out of his mind too. We will go into exactly why he is yoked, along with why his actions are justified. This guy, dude, like a lot of villains in Game of Thrones, this is a morally gray universe. He is a very, very misunderstood character that just gets painted as this evil, unforgivable character, and it's just not the case. Let us know in the comments what you think of Roose Bolton before we get into this.
Yeah, this universe is as beautiful and gray as Roose Bolton's eyes, and this might be actually one of the easiest defenses for us. But first, I really want to put you in the frame of mind of Roose Bolton, okay? So you're in the North. You're the second most powerful house within the North, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who are your liege lords or your wardens over your area? Are they the awesome Tyrells who have the ability to mukbang Stannis Baratheon into Storm's End? Is it Robert or Stannis Baratheon, one of those base Storm's End boys? Is it Tywin Lannister, the cunning baseball boy?
Yeah, it's not. It's not them.
It's the dumb Starks, but led by the anvil chin Ned Stark. Imagine that being your boss while you see all these other awesome leaders around you. Just imagine you start to go to war with the Coomer simp Robb Stark.
Yeah, for him, right? You work for this guy. You know, we're not saying that the Lannisters and the Tyrells like these perfect beacons in all ways of how a liege lord should behave or how like a house should behave in general. But it's like you look to the Starks, and yeah, sure, they like care about their own, but they're just blindly honorable. Like they're the kind of guys like Ned Stark. Listen, let me know if you disagree with this. Ned Stark would absolutely let thousands of his own people die, warriors, common folk, whatever, if it meant saving an innocent child or some stupid shit like that, right? Like, you know that's the case. Like, let's say there's some kind of a child.
For sure.
You could argue that Daenerys being like hundreds or thousands of miles away, it's kind of not in full frame for him, and if she was over there, maybe he would act differently. But I don't even think so. I think if you had a kid over in Winterfell going on some kind of magical rampage that they couldn't even control, like they're born with some crazy powers that they're unaware of, and they're just ravaging through, I don't think Ned would make the call to assassinate that innocent child because it doesn't know what it's doing, which is the stupidest decision. Roose Bolton puts his people on top.
Roose Bolton would not allow a bumbling, brain-dead idiot around his children, even though he could snap them in half like a toothpick. But let's just go into some of the reasons why people have a bad taste in their mouth when they talk about Roose Bolton. And one of them, I don't think is talked about enough, but I can see why people might be a little upsetty spaghetti because we actually like Barristan the Bold.
He's great, yeah.
Right after the Battle of the Trident within Robert's Rebellion, Roose Bolton requests, like, hey, my king, Robert Baratheon, please kill this man. Kill Barristan the Bold. He is not only a huge threat, but he is a traitor, and he should have a traitor's death. And he doesn't listen to him, and he allows him to live. This is a great point by Roose. Kill.
Yes.
We love Barristan here, but kill Barristan.
He's too dangerous to be left alive. He legitimately just is. It all worked out for the best. I understand that, but that's like with the luxury of hindsight. There's no way. If you're against a warring faction and you manage to basically capture the number 2, I guess, what would you say the number is, the ranking order? Like going by lore.
I agree, number 2.
The number 2 guy in terms of fighting in this force, of course
Maybe
you
3.
kill him. Maybe 3. It's possible 3. You got like Arthur Dayne, the most yerked off person in existence, who I guess we have no choice but to rank him like very highly, like 1 or 2 or whatever, but we question it. We think he might be the Epstein of Westeros.
With the Hightower, I don't know, is he called the White Bull? Which, I mean,
Yo.
have a name like that. Yo,
Yes.
What's up?
It's ridiculous not to consider killing this guy, and honestly, it's ridiculous not to go through with either. We know what Barristan's feats are. This guy can scale anything. You put a mile-high, flat surface wall in front of you with some like brick marks, he can rock climb it, man. He can get over that thing. There's no obstacle that he can't surpass to accomplish his goal.
Yeah, he's like one of those crazy goats that find a 1% incline or some sort of change of it, and he's able to climb the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's wishful thinking, and it actually pans out to be positive, but it is a Hail Mary pass to think that Operation Paperclip in the Battle of Triton is going to work for old Robert Baratheon. But it ends up working, right? He brings him in. He's able to have him within. He's a loyal knight.
Right, it's hindsight, right? Like, who knows? Maybe killing the Mad King wasn't like such a good idea, right? Maybe it would have all worked out for the best for Robert even if he didn't do that. So you never know.
Right.
That was lucky. Roose was dead on the money with that one.
Now, the origin of Ramsay, and it's kind of an overarching thing that Roose says that the North, some areas still practice the rite of the first night, the practicing of the old ways, which we're lovers of the Andals here, right? We think this is cringe to begin with, like, knock this off. But before we even go into the incident that birthed Ramsay, I think we can assume that some of these women are just nasty women that just want to open their legs up for these High Lords too. Like, if you're a High Lord galloping through your lands, I think these women want them more than some of these men want them.
That's 100% true. In this situation, it could easily be that. I mean, we know that after... So what happened exactly was that apparently Roose, when he was very, very young, I think he was even like a young teen, almost a kid.
Oh, dude.
It was something like that. And he found this woman who apparently he wanted to plug, or maybe she wanted him to plug her, right? We don't know exactly how it got initiated, but he wanted it. He couldn't not have it. So he had her husband killed. And then after all of this went down... Later on, we find out that the husband's brother basically stole her property, what should have legally been hers. And I'm thinking to myself, listen, I have a brother. If my brother's wife, like my sister-in-law, was graped and my brother was murdered, I'm not going to steal her land unless she is the cause of it, unless she came on to the guy who, quote-unquote, graped her. I'm just saying. But then it comes to the whole question of why exactly did Roose frame it as if it was a graping? You know, there's a lot of questions going on here.
Well, also, why would Roose be so dismissive of her when she comes up to him later on and is like, this is your son, look at his pale eyes, they look just like yours, and he eventually takes back the land, right, for her and puts her back there and kind of takes care of her. Why would he do that if it was like a consensual, like, oh, I actually kind of wanted to have sex with this girl? I feel like it might be statutory grape that actually occurred. It was only because he saw Ramsay that he thought, okay, actually some good came of this horrific thing that this... She's basically one of those teachers that you see all the time in the...
Always.
In the news constantly that are just graping these little boys. But just because the boys are into it a little bit, I guess it's okay. But that's what I believe how... I
think that's a really good theory.
You know
what I think is another possibility? If you want to go with like the Roose actually did grape this girl thing... I think he basically drank the Kool-Aid of the cringe first men and the cringe like old gods and the old ways. And I think he's like, oh, hey, the first night, like prima nocta, why can't I do that? I'm like a High Lord. I'm a noble guy. Like, why in the world can't I do it? I think this, first of all, blackpilled him against the Targaryens. But then he did it. He did it this one time. He planted his perfect noble seed inside her pathetic, like, common soil. Right? It's kind of like rap music, right? Like he's hearing this propaganda from the first men, the tales of the first men, talking about how cool it is to commit these crimes on women. It's not cool at all. And when he did it, guess what happened? He hated himself afterward. Absolutely hated himself. And when she showed up at his doorstep and he realized what Ramsay was, that awakened his fatherly instinct. And it totally took over. And from then on, he would only live for the betterment of his family and his house. And sure, he didn't take Ramsay in right away as his son because he has a legitimate son, right? He has a legitimate son. He still has a public image to maintain. But what did he do? He sent that mother food, livestock. He provided for her. You know what I mean? And then after, skip forward, after his son dies, at the hands probably of his bastard, despite all that, he takes in Ramsay as his own son. Like, come on, this is like a saintly figure. How do you do that? Show me one person in real life that would do that.
Yeah, and also the person he's bringing in, he's not set up the best for success either, right?
Oh.
Ramsay was raised by a single mother. Go ahead and look up the statistics on that about the outcomes with people that are generally raised that way. Of course, we're going to have people in the comments being, listen, I was raised by a single mother. Like, cool. Here's a freaking award. I'm going to give you a kiss on the lips, too. Thank you. But also, Roose sent Reek over to Ramsay's mom to help him out, which was a nice gesture, I think, right?
Reek, maybe we should do an in defense of Reek. Like, we don't know that much about him, but I think
one.
There's got to be a silver lining. There's got to be a silver lining to Reek 1.
Well, also, I don't know if Ramsay killed, I think Domeric is his first son's name, Roose's actual heir, because I think people allege that he was poisoned, and poison's a weapon of a woman, and Ramsay's not a woman. He's not a bitch. He will go right out and hunt you down like a dog. He's not going to poison you and let you just get all sick in bed. That's
Absolutely.
stupid.
That sounds like, listen, this is much more along the playbook, I think, of possibly Ramsay's mother, who we already established probably statutory graped Roose. That's pretty schemy behavior, possibly in order to get her husband killed You know what I'm saying? Like, try to sneak
Right.
out of a relationship that way, maybe elevate herself at the same time. Didn't quite work out. But yeah, I mean, I could see that with some kind of a chip on her shoulder. Like, hey, Ramsay, like, that's your real dad. And that kid right there standing in the way. Go take him out, man. Let him get spanked by the stranger a few times.
Oh, let me get in line with that.
With the Ramsay origin thing, too, there is another possibility. I'm sure that a lot of you guys have heard of this famous theory around Roose Bolton that he's actually like a skin changer who's ancient, like kind of like a Darth Vitiate analog who body hops and skin changes in order to stay alive using blood magic for thousands of years. And that's why he does his whole leech therapy and fire magic and stuff like that. But in reality, that's just to maintain his extremely yoked physique, right? Like the leech therapy, a lot of unconventional, unorthodox skin treatments and whatnot. That's the actual purpose of that. But if you do want to accept this theory that he's an ancient magical being who is, some people think he's the son of the Night's King and that dime piece White Walker, you know, with the liquid nitrojuicy or whatever, you know, like the super ancient beings. If that's the case, this grape thing is just completely a lie. Like, he's just telling it to Theon to disarm him. And honestly, there is a little bit of logic to that, because in this whole grape story, he has people's tongues cut out just so that Rickard Stark won't find out. He has other people killed in the wake so that people just don't know the origin of Ramsay, right? So why, if he's willing to tie up all these loose ends in such brutal ways, why is he creating another loose end right in front of him? You know what I'm saying? So there is actually some legitimacy to that theory, I think, when it comes to this graping thing. But we don't even need that. There's plenty of ways to talk ourselves out of it.
Right. And also, I think we might do a video on why House Bolton is the greatest house in the North. But I think this might be one of their flaws here. They like telling tall tales. They like making you scared. They love spooky Gary season, right?
True, yeah.
The Dreadfort. We're gonna cut your skin off and wear it as a cloak. I mean, that is just unrealistic. Cutting off people's skins and making a cloak out of it. Come on. But this is him just trying to freak out Theon. He's just doing it in a different way. He just wants to kind of scare him.
Yeah, totally legit. And and you can tell, by the way, he felt like he went a little bit far, because when they arrive at Barbary Dustin's place, he actually introduces Theon to Barbary Dustin as his proper name and title. You know that? Because he clearly feels bad for him as Reek, which, I mean, listen, that alone right there, too, if you want to talk about good guy Roose, that alone is a feat of compassion for Theon, bigger than anything I'm capable of. You know what I mean? I would have spent that entire carriage ride. I wouldn't tell him anything about my backstory. I would have spent that entire carriage ride sucker punching him, wet willies, jerk him off, and then call him a it when he finishes.
Call him a what?
Hey, I'm not judging. I'm not judging at all. You know what I mean?
One other thing I want to say, too, because you're talking about his amazing physique, right? George R. R. Martin kind of made it clear to us about how ripped Roose Bolton actually is supposed to be. And I think it was like a text message, and he'll just send us these ripped men, pictures of like great body physiques. And
just
say,
it looks great.
He says, Roose is going to make you loose. And whatever that means, I don't know. But we can only assume that he is going to maybe give the White Bull a run for his money there.
Probably. It's kind of been cryptic until now, but now that we're having this conversation, it makes a lot more sense.
Well, I think the largest crime you could potentially put on Roose Bolton, and the reason why a lot of people are so mad about him and clutch their pearls so hard, is because of his betrayal of the Starks and all of his actions that led up to the Red Wedding. And it is completely justified why he's doing this. Now, you might ask, like, oh, why does he have to do it in such a very schemy way like this? But overall, Roose Bolton is not a schemer. He's an opportunist.
Very true, very true. We see throughout the early series, he's not planning on betraying Robb. Like, when we first hear of the Robb Walder Frey interaction, like the possibility of them coming together, he warns Robb about Walder Frey and what the Freys might do, like the sneaky nature of the Freys. And listen, like the rest of the realm, Roose Bolton misunderstands Walder completely, okay? It's not true. They're not like the schemy people that, at least not Walder, right? Walder is not this guy people think he is. But despite the fact that he was tricked, the fact that he wants to warn Robb about this, his liege lord, it shows he wasn't just looking to betray, right? Like he's going to seize opportunities when they come, but it's not just a power grab. It's for the good of him and his house and his people.
He also, I think he was a little hesitant about getting the Greyjoys on their side. I know Catelyn was the main voice of saying, like, do not trust not only Theon, but the Greyjoys in general. But Roose had no intention of trying to pit the Greyjoys and Freys against the Starks. If anything, he was doubling down on Robb and the Starks' cause until basically he married that Westerling girl, or Talisa within the TV show, and then he loses this battle against Tywin and is like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to be making my plays for the Starks anymore. I'm going to start looking towards Tywin. Also, I know throughout the entire series, he's using Stark loyalists in the vanguard of his forces.
Yes.
But that's just like simple. Like, hey, listen, if I'm going to keep people alive, it's going to be people most loyal to me. I'm not going to keep people that are outsiders alive for the most part. I need to keep people that are going to be listening to orders alive for the most part. But, he doubles down on the Starks. He marries the Frey with the big money deposit with it.
Big cash energy.
Yeah, big cash energy. But can you imagine saying, hey, I'm going to marry this like second, maybe even third highest house within the Riverlands because the Starks are going to do it, right? This is like one of those things where, hey, we're all going to dye our hair, right? Yeah, we're all going to do this thing, right? And all of a sudden you do it and no one else does it. And you're like, what the hell, guys? I thought we were on the same side. I thought we were all going to do this. And you're like, dude, I'm like so stupid.
This is exactly right. He couldn't possibly have predicted when he married the fat Frey girl that he was going to end up having to betray the Starks. Why else would he marry the Frey girl? Like, it's like a little cash reward, right? But that's not going to be the reason why you change your whole life. It's just not going to happen. He adapts to change. Roose prioritizes his house above all else. They're his people, and they have put their lives in his perfect muscular hands, okay? He'll always prioritize the Bolton forces. He coordinates with Tywin so that the Stark loyalists get fucked and his people do not. He sends the Manderley forces and the Frey forces to fight Stannis, while his people, continue the spa day at Winterfell, right? This is like, that's in Dance of Dragons, right? We're going to see the outcome of that in Winter, hopefully, whatever comes out. And even just when it comes to the betrayal of Robb, you understand how this builds up, man. He got spanked by Tywin, okay? He got spanked by Tywin fighting for Robb. He was able to experience firsthand Tywin's wrath, and then Battle of Blackwater happens. He's holy shit, dude. Tywin and his hungry friends are way too formidable for Robb to handle, probably, right? Mm-hmm. So he starts to question. He's like, man, is my house, my people going to be safe working for this guy? And then to top it all off, he's in Harrenhal. He knows that he's going to be blamed for Vargo Hoat cutting off Jaime's hand if he does not do some kind of negotiations, and ally himself there. It's like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Like, Tywin would have collectively punished the Dreadfort, no question.
Can you imagine how stressful it must be being Roose Bolton, being this far down south, camping? I mean, I don't think enough people understand how far south Harrenhal is from the Dreadfort, right?
Yes.
They're so far south. Imagine being Roose Bolton this far from home, scheming, doing all this stuff in the name of your new king in the north. And then all of a sudden you see Jaime Lannister walking around free, and now he has his hand cut off. You're like, what the hell is going on around me? I'm surrounded by idiots. Catelyn Stark let him free. Robb Stark is marrying a girl in order to keep her honor, but not actually keep us alive and keep us within good standings of other large houses that actually will sway the results of this war.
Right.
I would be, first off, I would just like scream, just being like, I'm surrounded by idiots.
Yes.
Very George Costanza, like, Jarek. Yeah, of course, I would say, okay, listen, I got to play for me. Everyone else seems to be playing for themselves. Why am I going to play for the Starks and their honor and the greater North if they're only going to care about their nut or their daughters?
Harrenhal being super south of the Dreadfort, right? Far away from home. Do you understand how far away, actually, the Dreadfort is from Winterfell, too? The North is massive. Like, it's so easy for the Starks to just make decisions hastily. But if they're all home, who's going to be meeting those southern armies first? It's the fucking Dreadfort, dude. They're going to take the brunt. They might as well just be bent over. They might as well just station themselves bent over to be abused by whatever enemies that the Starks make. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
they're positioned horribly. I do not blame Roose Bolton at all for standing up and being like, man, something's got to change here because you were handling the situation ridiculously. I'm not about to die for Ned Stark. All my people aren't about to die for Ned Stark. And plus, dude, when it comes to the legacy of it too, the Boltons have been looked at as second best in the North, second fiddle for thousands of years, literally thousands of years. At some point, the dam's got to burst, right?
Their house words are what? Winter's coming.
No cringe.
Winter's coming. Yeah, of course it's coming. It always comes. Like, what the? Shut the hell up.
It's called seasons. It's called seasons. I was thinking about this earlier, man. Winter's coming. Way overused. Kind of cringe line. the North remembers is actually way cooler. It's a way cooler line. I don't know why that isn't. I guess that could just be the collective North line or whatever, but man, winter is coming. That is so fucking gay. Imagine if it was like spring is coming, like a different house, right? Spring is coming. That sucks. Yeah, I know it is. It's going to be great. I look forward to it.
I think we might do a live stream on all of like house words, because I don't know if you can do like a full video. Maybe just do a video on it. We'll contemplate this a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, I want to go through all of them, because there's some that are really awesome and great, and others that are just like a wet fart every time you say it. It's just ugh.
Yeah, dude, speaking of wet farts, I'd like to get one out of Jaime, and so would Roose Bolton. I think it was probably pretty easy, and I think people are going to look at this in a villain way, but I don't think so. I think that he looked at Jaime running around, like you said, at Harrenhal, just two hands, free as a bird, and he thought, oh, dude, there's that Chad that took out the Mad King. Because I do think that maybe the Prima Nocta thing kind of sparked it early on in life, that he felt so bad about it, but I think that he was really black-pilled against the Targaryens from the beginning, which I love. I fully align with that, right? You have Jaime objectively is a hero for killing the Mad King, right? Like, I think that it's an objective thing. He's a hero. Like, no one should be able to be that unbathed and that filthy as the Mad King was outside of India and get away with it, right? Like, no one should be able to do that and live. Of course, Roose is going to ally with the guy and the guy's family who took him out, rather than Ned Stark. Like, imagine hearing this news, like, oh, dude, Jaime Lannister killed Aerys II, man, killed the Mad King, the guy who was burning people alive and planned to kill everybody. Like, at first, you first hear that, and you're Roose or anybody reasonable, you're going to think, like, oh, fuck yes, that's amazing. Jaime Lannister, right? You're going to love this guy. And then you look over and you say, isn't that great, Ned? And Ned's in the corner pouting, be like, dishonorable. It's embarrassing.
Ned, didn't that guy kill your brother and father?
He doesn't give a shit.
I don't care.
He doesn't care. Roose, I wish he was my dad.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and smash that like button.
Or not. We don't care.